Barack is running the last lap of a 54-year race. He is running the anchor leg of that race. And you who are here tonight must put this fight in its context. This is not a generational struggle, young versus old, new versus old. This is an intergenerational struggle, that has continuity. Only by connecting to the continuity of our struggle can one appreciate where we are, what the possibilities are. We are a better nation today than we were 50 years ago. August 28, 1955, Emmett Till was lynched, kind of state-sanctioned terrorism. He was out of his place. August 28, 1963, Dr. King, 8 years from that date, dreaming of a new America beyond apartheid. The day he spoke in Washington, D.C. was under military lockdown. There was a train that came in, a car that came through the highways, an airport was under lockdown for fear of a riot. That day he spoke from Texas across to Florida to southern Maryland. We can use a single public toilet or facility. Our money was counterfeited. We could not buy ice cream at Howard Johnson. We could not rent a room with money at Holiday Inn. On the day he gave that speech, Nazi POWs had rights that African American soldiers did not have on the same military basis. In spite of that, we've made great progress. And so you go from August 1955 and Till being lynched, August 28, 63, Dr. King giving that great speech, to August 28, 2008, Barack being nominated by the Democratic Party. Now, what has happened here in this process? The reason why you are now being born into a train that already left the track. 1954, a little girl, Linda Brown, from Barack's mother's home state, Kansas, was led by her father and by Thurgood Marshall from this city. They won a lawsuit to make race and by extension gender supremacy illegal. Because prior to that decision, blacks had no rights, whites were bound to respect by law, and surely women did not either. So the 54 decision redefined democracy and law. The 1955 boycott was a test case of the 54 law. We won the boycott in 55, we won the lawsuit in 56. The Little Rock 9 battle going to Little Rock Central High, the school of your choice, was a test case of the law. All of our civil rights sit-ins and marches were testing the new law. So by 1964, we got a new law of public accommodation, so we could use these public facilities protected by the federal government. In 64, Fannie Lou Hamer, Atlantic City, New Jersey, Atlantic City Democratic Convention, held the convention, held it up arguing that why should an all-white Democratic Party be seated in Mississippi, did not include all the Mississippians. After much struggle, the compromise, you can have 2 seats, but neither can be Fannie Lou Hamer. She began to redirect us from this issue of freedom to political equality. It's about 65, you have the next upsurge in that struggle. We went to 7 and 65. Remember, women couldn't serve on juries. Blacks, Latinos couldn't vote. And farmers who couldn't pay poll taxes could not vote. As a matter of law, those who tried to face the terror of being killed at the polls. And so, Fannie Lou, Serena Goodman, Cheney, 2 Jews and black were killed about the vote. Medvedev was killed, terrorized in the struggle for the right to vote. Reverend James Reed killed in the struggle for the right to vote. This was the terror involved in tearing down that wall. By 1970, another breakthrough occurred. 18-year-olds got the right to vote. There was in some quarters at least as much fear about that vote as about blacks and women because there's so many teenagers and it's not enough for blacks on the deal. But we argued if teenagers are old enough to fight in Vietnam, they're old enough to vote. And so we won that argument. That's the extension of Selma, Alabama. by 741, another very significant law case, residency. That if you go to school where you are tonight, you don't have to vote absenteeism or go home. You can vote right where you live, right where you reside. That was a big deal because towns like Madison, Wisconsin, Ann Arbor, Michigan, the fear was the students, in fact, because they were marching and very political during that season, would use their voting numbers to begin to take over the governments of towns, whatever schools. That those students, in fact, would run for city council. And maybe only Ann Arbor and Madison did it. Most students receded back into the routineness of going to school, but the ideal residence that took place. So we saw it this year where students in Iowa and other caucus states didn't have to vote absentee or go home. They could register and vote when they were in school and then form caucus. Whole dormitories became caucuses. That was the big difference because you had the right to vote in that way. In 1975, some were called bilingual. If your first language was Spanish or Native American, Eastern European, as the case may be, you had the right to vote in that language, another extension of Selma, Alabama. The journey continues to be fought for redistricting and proportionality in the breakout of districts. In 1988, when I first ran, it became apparent to us and clear that, and something called winner-take-all, they had 40% thresholds before you could be a delegate. And if you won the state 51-49, you won all delegates. And so somehow 49 did not equal 100, I mean did not equal 0, and 51 didn't equal 100. So we, in fact, in 88, changed the rules to proportionality. This year, if Hillary wins California, Texas, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, she's the winner, but the winner take all the rules by which Republicans play tonight. But in our system, proportionality, with a lower threshold, the 15% threshold allowed more common people to become delegates. And it also allows us, in fact, to vote proportionality. And that's why we are a more democratic process. By 1990, by extension, the Physical Disabilities Act. So if you are blind and need to vote in Braille or you need wheelchair access, we won that battle. All of these battles for the right to vote leads us to 2008. But you got to stop by 1972, where we had to unseat the day of the Democratic Convention delegation because they did not want to take on the rules, the McGovern rules of inclusion. Struggle all along the way. And so 2000, the Republicans determined that they could not win by registration. They could win by forms of elimination and forms of suppression. So in 2000, Ms. Harris used the rolls of felons in Florida and Texas and imposed them in Florida. And people whose name was John R. or John S. TK maybe, they used the felon rolls to confuse and not poke off the rolls. Students at Florida A&M and Bethune-Cookman who did vote but denied student access to voting. And so out of all that, Bush ends up winning by 512 votes. Last in 2008, the owner of the Diabo machine says Bush will be the winner. The Secretary of State, who co-chaired this campaign, said Bush will be the winner. So you're going to play, the Ravens are going to play the Giants Sunday, and the owner who hires the referee said we're going to win. It's hard to lose or win a close game with those kind of regulatory schemes stacked against you. And so in Ohio that day we had long lines of wet people and dry machines. And thus we lost the election. And so voting matters. Voter disenfranchisement schemes are alive today. Good news is look where we've come from. Today you have a woman on the ticket and you have an African American heading the ticket because we've been fighting gender suppression and fighting for gender equality and racial justice all along that line. So Barack in some sense becomes the result of 54 years of legal struggles to democratize the process. You pick up that baton now, and on November 4th, you vote against all odds and don't let us down. Thank you very much.